Now, Kamala's campaign chair, Jen O'Malley Dillon, has complained about how the media let Kamala Harris down and lost her the election. This is incredible because the media coverage was almost universally positive for Kamala Harris, 84% positive, and almost entirely negative for Donald Trump, 98% negative, according to the Media Research Centre. But let's have a listen here to Jen O'Malley Dillon.
Being up against a narrative that we weren't doing anything or we were afraid to have interviews is completely bull, and also took hold a little bit. And we just gave us another thing we had to fight back for that Trump never had to worry about.
Really, it seems like they are clueless about what really happened, why they lost so badly, how they squandered so much money, how they squandered all that goodwill from the media and positive coverage. If this is really where they are, there's a long way to come back because they haven't seemed to have learnt any lessons from this loss.
No, it was some serious coping. And you have to wonder how much of it is she was on camera on a podcast and she's saying what she, as the chair of the campaign, has to say. She's not exactly a reliable narrator. Or does she really know it deep down inside? Who knows? It could be that they actually don't believe it because whining about the media, for anybody who follows the media, is the funniest place to go. And when she was complaining that Trump didn't have to stand up to the unfair media the way she had to, he only had to stand up to being called a convicted felon and a rapist and an insurrectionist and so many other things.
Democracy, a fascist.
Yeah, and
he had stories just absolutely manufactured to paint a crisis, whether it's the bloodbath or the fine people hoax, which 7 years later the media was still repeating despite it being debunked. I mean, there's so many examples. We could be here all day.
Right.
But surely she's got her own reputation and credibility there. So to go on camera and say that, she looks like a fool.
She does, and that is interesting because they are going to be regrouping for whoever's next in her own career. And David Plouffe was off camera there, but he's a smart guy, one of Obama's people. He has been in other media saying that she just was a really flawed candidate, in as nicely put as he can say that. But she seems to be going all in and finding a bogeyman, which happens to be the media for her.
And I'll tell you how badly they were going. They've revealed that popular internet show Hot Ones turned down their demands to interview Kamala Harris, apparently because they didn't want to get political. This has got to be near low kosher, to be rejected by podcasters effectively when you're running to be the President of the United States.
That really is funny. I will say, to give the podcasters the benefit of the doubt, if it's true that they have never had a political guest on, that's what they claim. I'm actually not that familiar with all of their episodes. Good for them in this overly political world that we live in. If there's one podcast out there, say, trying to be pure, that's great. But it is a low for her. And you know what? The biggest one is, instead of whining about that one, Joe Rogan, everybody knows how that story went. She had an opportunity to be interviewed by him, passed it up, or didn't want it to be the free-flowing 3-hour format that he's known for, and that is a way she could have gotten cut through to 15 million people, and she blew it.
Well, O'Malley Dillon also revealed just how they botched that. Again, I don't know if she's lying or whether this is an admission, but Kamala was even in Texas and she still messed this up, and it seemed to be, we can't put aside an entire day. The world's biggest podcast,
right.
You surely can. I don't actually believe that. I think they were smart enough to know that it would have been a train wreck. She would not be able, if she can't deal with The View and the softball questions from them, how's she going to deal with Joe Rogan, who asks probing questions and wants to have a real conversation?
And you need the intellectual stamina to go through 3 hours unedited with him. She couldn't have done it. And it's, again, easy to blame her schedule, as if you can't fly in, do an interview and fly out.
She's got a jet. She had over $1 billion to play with. I'm sure she could have got there. Now, another left-leaning mayor, this one of Tucson, is that how I pronounce it, in Arizona, Regina Romero, says she's going to do everything she can to stop mass deportations. She says they're cruel.
I am deeply troubled by President-elect Trump's plans for mass deportation. I believe they are cruel and immoral. I will work with our police chief to make sure that our focus remains on protecting and serving Tucsonans. I am unwavering in my commitment to this fight.
Oh, Kosha, what do these mayors not understand about elections having consequences? Donald Trump has a clear mandate when it comes to deportations. It wasn't a secret. It was a major policy platform. And he's won. He's won everything. He's won the House. He's won the popular vote. He's won the presidency. Exactly what are they?
And his approval rating is high, and support for this issue in particular has only trended in one direction. And something like 70% of Americans support some version or some quantum of mass deportations. I think what they're going for is they know that they can flout the mandate and the law and all of this, as they have done for the past 40 years in varying degrees, and especially in his first administration, he was met with similar opposition. They're doing it right now. The mayor of Denver came out last week. She's come out now. So they're basically pointing to the sanctuary cities that they run or states, and they're saying, you know, we don't support it. Let's see what you're going to do. And the number one question on everybody's mind is this time going to be different? Where, you know, Trump did a little bit last time, but he didn't go scorched earth. Yeah. And will he this time, given that the public sentiment is on his side, and he's much more emboldened, I think, given the mandate that he's received.
And given the person who's put in charge of that particular area, I think it is going to be scorched earth. Could it be a strategy here for Republicans to say, okay, you want to be a sanctuary city, you want to be a sanctuary state, fine. Illegal immigrants can move there, and in the other states where they are going to cooperate, we're not going to have this issue. I mean, could that be a strategy you employ? It says you vote for these policies,
you live by them, and cutting funding, federal funding for sanctuary states. And there are definitely levers, for sure. They need the political will and the spine to fight people like this, to fight the media, to reframe the issue. And let's hope that this time the team is much more equipped to do so.
But of course, longer term, you would imagine the Democrats have plans to have a path to citizenship fast-tracked for a lot of these. And we're talking about millions upon millions of people, and they're counting that they're going to be voting Democrats for the foreseeable future. Yep. They may be wrong, but that's what they're hoping for. Now, let's talk about this story. This is incredible. A story about DEI training, a study that looked into its impact, was supposed to be published by the New York Times and Bloomberg, but they reportedly decided not to publish the story after the results of the study went very differently to what they imagined. The study, in fact, found that DEI policies, we're talking about diversity, equity, inclusion, DEI training actually makes people see prejudice where it does not exist. It results in increased hostility, promotes agreement with extreme rhetoric, such as adapted Adolf Hitler quotes. This is incredible. This is what we're talking about, because a lot of this so-called affirmative action, reverse racism, it's just racism. It's just an obsession with race and giving certain privileges to people for things that they have no control over, whether it's their gender, their ethnicity, or their sexual orientation.
Yes, and on top of that, it's like an $8 billion industry, this whole DEI complex. People like Ibram X. Kendi and Robin DiAngelo have become multi-millionaires off this industry and the solutions that they purport to do it. Half the American workers have had to take some form of training in HR departments about this stuff. So at best, it's a complete and utter waste of productivity and value in these companies. And at worst, it's something more sinister, like you're saying, that it's actually priming people in a negative way. So not only is it a waste, but it's making people focus on things that they otherwise wouldn't have. And I think that blind taste test in this study, where they were taking passages from Hitler and changing out people, is fascinating. And some enterprising podcasters should go and like do a whole bit on that, because I think it would go viral.
That was incredible. This study is, we could talk about it for an hour. Some of the insights are incredible. Kosha Gator, thanks so much for your time tonight.